Perfect.
Hey,
Hi, Kelsey.
how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Just at
It's
my
early
desk.
over there.
Yeah, it's 9.
Yeah,
You have a 4-year-old. You're up 3 hours prior to
it'll
that.
do that.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's good to
hmm
see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yes. So, I'm Kenzi Locks. I am the Director of Educational Development here at Yesh Tikva. And Kelsey, I will let you introduce yourself. You have a long list of exciting things about you.
Thanks. So I'm Kelsey Vander Vliet Ranyard. I am the director of Policy and Advocacy at Ethical Family Building. We're a nonprofit in California, but we're national. We work to uphold and raise the ethical standards for private adoption practices across the country. We partner with about 200 licensed agencies and attorneys who are committed to upholding our guidelines and standards. And then I'm the co-author of Adoption Unfiltered, which is a book that came out in December of 2023, and our paperback actually is coming out this fall, which is exciting. And then
I have it right back
um,
here.
trying to think, there's a, oh yeah, there you go. Um, I'm trying to think of the other things. I co-produced a documentary called Carrying, which comes out next year, hopefully the beginning of next year. So that's really exciting. Um, and then I'm the co-founder of Utah Adoption Rights, which is a grassroots movement right now that's working on improving the adoption laws in Utah to prevent what we call adoption tourism. So yeah.
So many things.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things. So I'm also a birth
I
mom.
was gonna say you're
So
leaving out
yes,
one more there.
I'm also a birth mom. I'm in an open adoption to my child who's 9 years old. So yeah.
Goodness, getting big.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sorry I made you recite your resume, but it's a good
It's all
resume.
good.
It's
It's all good.
it's
It's just hard to
important.
remember at 9 a.m.
I
But yeah,
it's okay. I got it. I
it's
hear
all
you.
good.
I was gonna say it's noon over here, so I had more
Yeah.
prep time. So I was hoping today we could talk a little bit about folks who are facing infertility, as most of the folks we work with are at Ishtikva, but also other, folks who are just looking at different pathways to parenthood, and they're considering adoption.
hmm
And we are very committed to helping folks make ethical choices. And as you certainly know, and I know, it can be really hard to do that when you don't have all the information in front of you about what is and is not, on the more ethical side. And I like to joke that, Google doesn't care about your ethical choices when it's giving you the SEO of who's at the top of the list when it comes to adopting a baby or placing your baby for adoption.
Right.
And so sort of what should people consider? What should they look out for? How can they really explore what's going on?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that you're going to have grief and infertility, and it's not something to be ignored, because I think when we in anything, like for me, if I ignored my birth parent grief, it seeps out of you in different ways, in undesirable ways. And so
Mm,
it's the same thing with infertility grief. I've worked in the field for 8.5 years now. So I've met so many adoptive parents in the process who have struggled with infertility, and that on their journey to get to adoption. And so many different parents at different stages of grieving that infertility. And it's really been there's moments where, you look at a parent and you're like, I just don't think you're ready to explore this option.
mhm,
And I think that there's a lot of people that are in considering adoption or in the process that haven't really processed what infertility how it has really affected their mental health and their
mhm,
well-being. And
mhm,
I think that that is the very first step. If infertility is a cause for you to consider exploring adoption, that's the very first step, is exploring how can I find some healing and and seek the help I need. Because when we go into something like adoption as a salve, it's going to be so destructive for yourself, but also for a child and for birth parents and for all the people that are affected. And so we want to go into adoption. If we're going to go into adoption at all, we want to go in with like eyes wide open. And also, one of the most heartbreaking things I see sometimes is adoptive parents make really preventable mistakes. And you can kind of see it's due to this turmoil that they're in, and it's clouding their decision-making processes. I see really intelligent, and I'm on the side too, where we get calls from adoptive parents. I'm not doing any matching. I'm not doing any placement work or direct services. We're working on law and policy. So what happens is I get calls from adoptive parents who have already gone through this process, and it's been a mess. And they've lost thousands and thousands of dollars. They're just totally sunk in emotions, and they just feel like they're in a hole they can't get out of. And they look back at what they've just, like the decisions they've made, and they're like, I can't believe I did that, or I trusted that person, or I wrote that check. And these are super intelligent people.
Yes.
I'm talking to doctors and lawyers
Yes.
and engineers, and I'm like, guys, like, you want to shake them because you know they're smarter than that, and they know they're smarter than that, and they're disappointed too. And so we want to
It's emotional. They're making emotional decisions, which is not inherently terrible. But when there's, these are huge life altering decisions attached to those checks.
I see people deliberate harder on where they should go to dinner on Friday night sometimes than what should I do in this adoption situation that involves multiple people and affects multiple people's lives. I mean, that's what we're talking about, is like sort of flippant decisions made based in a space of emotion and desperation and not critical thinking and logic. So it's like we have to do more prep work in the beginning, and just prepare ourselves for very difficult circumstances and decisions, and also discerning who we can trust and why. And at our nonprofit, we do a lot of work to create content to help people discern better, because asking the questions is only half of it. You want to look for certain answers. You want to keep weighing things as you go through the process. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but we have guiding principles that are low-hanging fruit. We are the first to admit our guiding principles are very low-hanging fruit, but it does weed out a lot of
not everyone can reach it.
Not everyone can reach
we know it,
which says a lot about this field. And says a lot about how you should walk through this journey in such a minefield. So if you don't mind, I can just read through them, and then
please. I just want to say I send everybody to your website.
Okay.
I'm like, we have an adoption Tikva toolkit, as we call it, which is like a very general guide. I think we link to your site 3 different times, because I'm not going to recommend an agency. I'm going to let you tell people, and there's a whole spiel about, all the things that we're about to talk about. But yes, it's important. You, in my opinion, you are the pinnacle of, the best of the best.
Thanks. Stuff, so. We really appreciate it. So the first guiding principle is access to free, separate legal representation for expectant mothers. So this means that, and maybe some of you don't know this, but like in private adoption, typically, unfortunately, adopted parents are represented by an attorney, but the birth mom is not. And that's a huge problem, because I don't know if I can think of another legal scenario where one party has representation and one doesn't. And then we look at that and say that seems like a fair process. That's not a fair process. In this scenario, that means mom is probably unsure on some level of who represents her. And in that scenario, no one is representing her. She might be seeking legal advice from a social worker who can't give legal advice and shouldn't be, and probably doesn't understand the full implications of everything. The legal implications, I mean. But then she might be relying on advice from the opposing counsel, and that's not good either. But if she has her own attorney appointed to her, then she is, read her rights. She has an advocate. She has someone that is, making sure she totally comprehends everything. And that's what you want. You don't want to get to the end of this process and she's like, I actually didn't know what my rights were at all. You don't want that. You want a mom to be able to make this decision with a sound mind, fully understanding what everything's means, and she has the chance to just have informed consent to this process. I believe that the legal part of that is one half of the process. I think the social work is another half of the informed consent process, because you also want someone explaining like her emotional and grief, the after effects, and how to prepare for that. But anyways, that's our first guiding principle. Our second one is written post-adoption contact agreements or open adoption agreements. So these are agreements that both parties agree to, that details how and when post-adoption contact is going to occur. So this is something that's negotiated typically during or shortly after birth. But it should be a good post-adoption contact agreement process is something that is like a fluid document that you are able to go back to and make changes to together, not just one party, but together, because you really don't know each other. So I think people sort of overstate how well their relationship is going, especially in the beginning, because they don't really know each other. There's still so much tiptoeing around each other. But you want to be able to go back to that and say, you know what? One annual visit was just sort of a thing, but now we're seeing her 3 times a year, 4 times a year. I want to be able to put that in. It sets expectations for her. It's really hard. I did not have, actually, I'm trying to think of all of our guiding principles, I didn't have any of it. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to not have it. When you have like this promise of open adoption, but you don't have any like set expectations and like, when am I going to get the next picture? When am I going to see him again? When am I going to, it's like, you're just in limbo, and it really affects your emotional process when those things don't happen. So not every state enforces post-adoption contact agreements. But there are about 29. I know New York is one of those.
Oh yeah,
that does enforce them.
Right. And we're based in California. Actually, does California enforce?
Yes.
Okay.
And my colleague Celeste, actually, she's an attorney and she works on those enforcements. She represents birth parents in those. And like, it's all, I think people get scared of post-adoption contact agreements, which we shorten and just say PACAs. People get scared of those because they're like, well, are we throwing a legalese into this relationship? And I think our argument against that is always like, you're just expecting this woman who doesn't know you to just trust you. And that doesn't always work out for people. And PACAs are not foolproof. There's definitely problems with the way accessibility to enforcement, especially for a mom who might be financially struggling, and also for a court that might have bias against biological parents. There's a lot of possibilities there, but it is a start, and it does help set expectations and helps people have some peace of mind about what contact might look like and allow people to build on that foundation. And so that's why we're really supportive of those.
That makes sense.
The third one is quality post-adoption counseling and support for birth parents. This is kind of a no-brainer if you understand, like if you can even put yourself in the shoes of someone that is having a baby in the hospital and is going to leave without that baby.
Right.
it's going to be extremely traumatic and very life altering. You never go back to what life is like before you've, given your child away. So I think that it's quality post-adoption counseling. It means not just going to your church for a counselor. It means like going to a licensed therapist when you're ready. I think sometimes also we expect moms to be like, well, why isn't she going to counseling? She had the baby a week ago. Obviously she's struggling. If your husband died today,
Right. You're not going to be like, let
would
me
you
go
go
talk
to
to
a
a
therapist
therapist.
tomorrow?
Right. Oh.
Yeah, so it has
It's
to
a
be
really,
in
I
your own
appreciate
time.
that because also, not to just interrupt you, but I think also with infertility, and I imagine a lot of folks here can
Totally.
understand, people will be like, oh, you're grieving from XYZ. There's so many things you can grieve in infertility.
Mhm.
Go talk to a therapist. Go
Totally.
right now. And it's like,
Totally.
you have to build a relationship with this person, which when you are
Oh yeah.
in the thick of
Yeah.
like the immediate after effects of a
Mhm.
loss,
Mhm.
is that really where you want to put your energy? Is it really where you're capable
Yeah.
of putting your energy? And this is, I mean, that's, it's
Mhm.
complicated grief on both, and it's really disenfranchised grief on both with a birth parent
Yeah.
or somebody facing infertility loss.
Yeah.
This is not simple,
Oh
like
yeah.
go to your therapist 3 times and you're all set.
And everybody's different. So I have a
Mhm.
friend who she placed around the same time as me. She was ready to start therapy 2 years later.
Yeah,
I didn't start till this year
good for you
in
though. But yeah,
February.
that's
And now
nice.
I'm going all the time. But like I've like worked in this. It's like
Right, this is your like
I've
life, and
yeah, I've been practicing. I haven't been practicing what I preach ever like for a very long time. But everybody has like when it gets to be a lot of times people seek out therapy not when things are like um but when things get to be a little bit unbearable
hmm
and you realize you're not getting better on your own, that's when people sort of start to seek out professional help.
yeah.
And that's the point that a lot of us have to reach, and birth moms too. But if birth moms have never also, you have to consider the demographics as well. So like you're typically talking about people who have been living with like low income. They
hmm
might have had, they might be scared of a social worker. We see
hmm
that a lot. A
hmm
social worker, a therapist, or therapy. There's still a stigma about it in a
hmm
lot of communities. So but access to that and access to quality post-adoption counseling and support is really important. Also, support groups. I think different mediums of support are really important because people benefit from different things. Um, Support groups for community and group therapy, as well as individual therapy and maybe retreats or something. So
hmm
all of those count, and they're really helpful for finding healing and everything after such a traumatic thing. The fourth one is reasonable fees for adoptive parents. So this is really justifiable fees for one.
hmm
um, Agencies and attorneys should be reasonably compensated for what they do, for their expertise, and for the services they're providing, but they shouldn't be charging excessive matching fees or flat fee services that they for things they don't actually render, and they're not licensed to provide. There's also that.
That's fun.
Um, and then we just added a fifth guiding principle, which isn't even on the website yet, which we need
Ooh,
to change.
let's break it out.
But it's if you're working with an adoption agency, that they need to be a nonprofit organization. That's also
Mhm.
low hanging fruit. But you'd be surprised. There's a quite a few for-profit agencies out there,
Yeah.
and you can't. There's no disclosure of their financial records. There's no. I can't find your 990. You don't have one. And it's if you're working in a space where you're transferring a child from one home to another, you're providing a public service, which is child welfare, but you're doing so privately. You still need to be a nonprofit. So kind of goes without saying, but
I
those are
love
our guiding principles. Those are like the very basic things to look for. And I always call it like kindergarten. So once we go through kindergarten, then we'll get to the other stuff. But this
yeah.
is like the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Makes a
that's
lot
a
of
lot of
sense.
talking.
That's why you're here. That's why we have you. No, thank you. And I think it's so helpful. And because again, this is not, maybe to you and me some of it at this point, but it's not inherent to your typical person who's coping with infertility and
Right.
somebody says, you should look into adoption. It's just like you said, it's important to know the questions to ask and it's important to know what to look for. But most don't even realize they have to ask questions. And,
Right.
you go to an agency or you go to all these other kinds of people who are providing quote unquote services. They're educating you. And if
Yeah.
they are educating you in a way that works for them, it may not be in the way that works for you, or in this
Right.
case, even more importantly, of course, birth parents and
Right.
adoptees. Like it's,
Right.
they're here to get you through your process in their way, not
Right.
questions. So
Right.
it's
And we
tough.
always like people, we often find people rely on whatever professional they've first called to
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate to them how the process works. So that's the framework. So they rely on whoever that is. So our goal is to be the first person you find to build that framework for you, so then you can discern which thing is outside of the box and the bounds of what you should be doing. So yeah, and adoptive parents are the ones writing the checks, so they do have that. I hate to call them consumers, but the consumer power, they have that. And so they have a lot of power, even when they feel very desperate. And we do believe that in a lot of circumstances that they can be a victim of poor practices and bad systems. Even in those circumstances, they hold more power than anybody else in the adoption triad. And so they have, I want them to recognize that. Yeah.
And I know we have to wrap up, but can you speak just a little bit about when somebody comes to your website? What can they find? And like I always explain, you have like this beautifully wonderful search engine essentially
Yeah.
that like a directory search engine, but like what
Right.
other, and you can by all means explain a little bit, and then what else should they be coming to you for?
Yeah. So we and I so okay, let me rewind
Sorry,
here.
long question.
So we have a couple different websites. So we have Adopt Match and Adopt Change. So adoptmatch.com is where it's really geared towards expectant moms, but also adoptive families. But this is where you find our partner providers. So our partner directory, you can find our licensed partners in your state. So you click on your state, and then you'll see if all these partners. If they're not a partner, if like whoever you're looking at is not a partner, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not upholding our guiding principles. But at the same time, we've been around since 2016. So, I mean, there's been plenty of time to become a partner. And there are some places that aren't qualified. So I would start there if you're looking to connect with an adoption professional. For adoptive parents, there's a tab called For Adoptive Parents on Adopt Match, where it's going to talk about just the very basics, but we're continuing to add content. It'll talk about things you want to stay away from, like unlicensed adoption brokers, and how to be more savvy when you're looking for adoption information on the internet. There's going to be all that kind of information. Our Adopt Change website is adoptchange.org. This is going to give you a little bit more information about brokers, the unlicensed intermediaries, which we haven't even touched on.
No,
But
but
there
please, if you
are,
are considering
yeah,
adoption, please, go
yeah.
read about that. That's a big piece.
Stay away from anyone that's not licensed to provide adoption services. And I will just say, especially if you're in New York and New Jersey, and that's for legal reasons. Like that's for New York, New Jersey legal reasons. But yeah, and stay away from them for multiple reasons. But if you're in that area, really stay away from them.
Yeah.
And any attorney should tell you the implications of that. But we have what's called the adoption provider search on Adopt Change. You can find out. Oftentimes hard to find out if someone is licensed or not. Not every state is publishing this information.
Right.
It's really difficult.
And their own websites can very much make it feel like you are looking at
Yes.
a
Yes.
licensed, beautiful adoption agency, and really it's
Yeah.
like two people in their house.
Totally. So you can search by 3 different criteria. You can search by the name of the company, the name of the owner, or the name of the website. So I can just use one as an example that I use all the time. Chosen Parents Adoptions. And
Sounds like
I
a lovely
searched,
little agency.
yeah, they're, oh my gosh, they're unlicensed. They're an unlicensed provider. I now know I can connect the name of the owner, and I now see all of their URLs. You can search by the URL. You can search by, to find out if you're not even sure, because oftentimes too, you'll be on a website and you won't be able to tell who owns it. Some of these adoption entities own, I've seen some with like 200 URLs that they own. It's insane. So if you want to know,
but like, I just want to, I'm
it,
going to pause you for 2 seconds, Kelsey. I just want anybody listening to understand that when you go to Google, like this is what you're up against, and that's where their money is going.
Yes.
And it's hard to discern that these, first of all, are not 200 separate agencies,
Right.
but that none of them are actually agencies.
Right. Yes.
So complicated.
So you can search through that. It gives you fast facts. There's no reviews or anything like that, but it does give you the facts on who are these people, first of all, and then you can make your own decisions from there.
Right.
We also have a lot of interactive state law maps to find out what are the state laws in your area. We are adding these all the time. As soon as we complete the legal research on the state statutes, we add the new map. Right now we have 4 maps. I think we have like 3 in the arsenal ready to go. So someone just has to publish
I
them.
love it. I love that y'all are growing all the time, right?
Yeah. So we just are trying to add a bunch of new content that's helpful for everybody impacted by private adoption. We have laws about unlicensed intermediaries, laws about adoption advertising, post-adoption contact agreements, dual representation. There's all kinds of things that you can learn. And then if you really want to get motivated and help us with legislation and advocacy, there's that as well. So that's what there's so many more things being developed right now. This has been a huge summer of content building for us. So there's more to come.
Wonderful. So. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Any last word of wisdom for anybody watching, or?
Yeah. I think some people tell adoptive parents a lot of times to trust their gut, and I say don't do that. Do your research. Your gut
doesn't know about this.
Your gut doesn't understand the adoption process in the United States. So don't just trust your gut.
I love that.
Get all of the supporting information that you need, and then make a critical thinking, logical decision. So.
If you all need a new tagline, that's kind of perfect. Don't just trust your gut.
Don't just trust your gut.
I like it.
Not today. Not in this day.
Not for this. Use it to pick the dinner, where you're going for dinner on Friday night.
Yeah, because your gut knows what it wants to eat.
Yeah.
But it doesn't know the adoption process.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Kelsey. It's always so great to talk with you.
Yeah, good to see you. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.